Breaking out in a massive explosion at Philadelphia Energy Solutions refinery in Philadelphia. Dramatic footage. You see it here. PES runs a 335,000 barrels a day refinery there. It is the largest and oldest oil refinery on the East Coast. Philadelphia fire officials say that one employee complained of chest pains this morning, but no other injuries have been reported, and that's phenomenal and amazing considering there are 1,100 people who work there. It has had an impact in the energy markets, though. Check out RBOB gasoline prices right now. They're up by 3.4% this morning. Also, gasoline and jet fuel.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! MashaAllah! MashaAllah! MashaAllah!
President Trump approved military strikes on a number of Iranian targets, what's called a measured response, after an American drone was shot down. Planes were in the air, ships in position, when suddenly, according to the Times, the order came to stand down. It's not clear why President Trump changed his mind on the operation or if this was a logistical decision. It's also not clear if the strikes might still go forward. Meanwhile, the US has provided coordinates, which it says proves the drone was over international waters when it was shot down. But Tehran says the surveillance plane violated Iranian airspace. And the US Federal Aviation Authority has put restrictions on US airlines flying over the Gulf region. They say commercial flights are prohibited until further notice because of the tensions and the risks with Iran.
A small private airplane plunged into a hangar at 9:11 a.m., killing all 10 on board.
It's the start of a difficult day here in Addison. You can see that scorched hangar in the distance behind me. This plane was carrying 2 crew members and 8 passengers, and it had just taken off around 9 o'clock Sunday morning when something went wrong. This morning, new video of that horrific plane crash outside of Dallas.
Attention all aircraft on tower. Everybody just stand by. We had a accident on the field.
10 people killed when their twin-engine plane heading to Florida crashed into an unoccupied hangar and burst into flames shortly after takeoff.
We've noted that the airplane was damaged by impact forces and a post-impact fire.
You can see thick black smoke filling the air. Firefighters quickly rushing to the scene to extinguish the blaze that engulfed the Beechcraft BE-350.
You could tell there was some burning chemicals or, gas or oil. It definitely looked black enough for it to be serious.
The outside and inside of the hangar charred, the roof torn off. Officials have not released the names of those on board.
Our family assistance team is here to assist local responders with the families.
This is the second twin-engine Beechcraft to crash this month. Less than 2 weeks ago, a different Beechcraft model crashed shortly after takeoff in Hawaii. That plane, too, bursting into flames. All 11 people on board were killed.
President Trump was the first to arrive, walking slowly toward North Korea in the no man's land of the demilitarized zone, or DMZ. Then Kim Jong-un emerged, walking faster to catch up. The two leaders shook hands, Trump on South Korean soil, Kim Jong-un in the north.
Good to see you again. I've never expected to meet you at this place. Do you feel Excellency take a step forward? You will be the first U.S. president to cross the border.
They were separated only by a narrow concrete strip, the demarcation line between the two Koreas. President Trump asked and was invited to cross.
I asked him, I said, would you like me to come across the line? He said, I would be honored to do that. I would be honored. Now, I didn't know really what he was going to say, but it was my honor to do it.
The first sitting American president to set foot on North Korean soil.
Russia has finally confirmed the submersible, which caught fire, killing 14 elite members of the Navy, was nuclear-powered. An investigation is taking place at a naval base in Russia, with the Kremlin criticised for covering up crucial details about the incident. Comparisons are being made to the former Soviet Union's handling of Chernobyl.
Touching down in Severomorsk, the Russian defence minister is in damage control, continuing to suppress the details behind Monday's devastating submersible fire while praising the 14 highly skilled officers who died in it.
В критической ситуации моряки-подводники действовали геройски. Из отсека, охваченного огнем, в первую очередь эвакуировали гражданского представителя промышленности и задраили за ним люк, чтобы не допустить распространения пожара по всему глубоководному аппарату.
Late Thursday, the Kremlin finally confirmed the sub involved was nuclear-powered.
Now to a social media glitch affecting some of the billions of Facebook and Instagram users, preventing them from uploading and seeing photos and videos. Oh my. ABC's Janae Norman is here. And Janae, a lot of users, I joke, but they were fired up about this.
Right. I mean, upset to say the least, guys. You may have noticed it also. Facebook and Instagram apologized a little after noon Eastern time yesterday, of all places, on Twitter, saying they were working to get things back to normal. About 7 hours later, not only did Instagram announce everything was working again, look, it posted a celebratory GIF that's very seasonably appropriate. Fireworks. Facebook and Instagram were apologetic, but that didn't help many users trying to get their fix of cute puppies and seeing what their friends ate for lunch. Some tweeted frustrations like this guy saying, if we each post this image once, the Facebookers and Instagrammers will just assume Twitter is down too and leave us alone. The social media platforms experienced outages earlier this year and last year, you may remember. Facebook says yesterday's issue was based on a maintenance operation that triggered it.
And we do begin with that major earthquake rocking Southern California, felt for hundreds of miles, a state of emergency at the epicenter tonight. It is the biggest quake in decades there. You can see the shaking workers running for cover inside this restaurant. Cans and bottles knocked off grocery shelves. Gas leaks and power lines downed. Crews battling house fires. Multiple injuries reported tonight, and the hospital there at the epicenter in Ridgecrest forced to evacuate. So far, hundreds of aftershocks, and the region is bracing for more. ABC's Eva Pilgrim starts us off in Kern County.
Tonight, damage reports coming in. Southern California rocked by a major earthquake, the largest to hit the region in 20 years. Surveillance inside this restaurant capturing the intense shaking, employees running for cover, pictures falling off the wall. The 6.4 quake hitting at 10:33 a.m. local time in the Mojave Desert. The epicenter 11 miles northeast of the town of Ridgecrest near the China Lake Naval Air Base.
All of a sudden, next thing we know, we just started feeling rapid shaking, and I was grabbing for her and things were flying off the walls.
Near the epicenter, this house completely engulfed.
Orlac! Church! Move, people!
There is no escape from the fortress of the moles. No, except that.
Ow!
Massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit Southern California last night, causing damage and injuries throughout the area. It's the second earthquake to rattle the area in 2 days. It struck in the Mojave Desert. It's near the town of Ridgecrest, California. Our Carter Evans is in Ridgecrest with more.
These earthquakes have just rocked this community, and they've done a lot of damage. This is just one small example inside the East Ridge Market. We're here at Ridgecrest after the first quake, and then at 8:19 last night, the shaking started again and grew increasingly violent.
Everybody okay? This is the first glimpse of the damage inside a Ridgecrest supermarket. Tiles fell from the ceiling, food and other items flew off the shelves.
The air is really thick, dusty.
Gas lines ruptured, sparking numerous fires. California officials say they're bracing for the worst.
There have been a number of injuries reported. There's been a significant increased number of EMS calls to the 911 centers. Huge priorities right now for medical support and for firefighting and for emergency power.
Even in Los Angeles, more than 150 miles away.
It continues
This is a very strong
to rattle
earthquake.
pretty strong here.
8:21 here on the air. We're experiencing very strong shaking.
Wow.
I think we need to get under the desk.
All right, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back after
We'll be right
this.
back.
Wow.
The magnitude 7.1 quake came just 1 day after Thursday's 6.4 jolt, which at the time was the largest earthquake to hit California in 2 decades.
That quake turning life into chaos without warning turned out to be a foreshock. But this is what's left behind. The region was just starting to clean up, like the volunteers at the Ridgecrest Library, picking up thousands of books that fell from the stacks. The library was also closed when last night's quake hit. Elsewhere in Ridgecrest, security video captured the shaking at a laundromat and inside this convenience store. The tape stops as the power cuts out.
Zero earthquake activity in Southern California, which is very rare. Unlike many of the tough characters I have portrayed in my film career.
Hello?
Kate, stop what you're doing.
Jackson?
Listen to me. I've rented a plane. Pack up the kids. I'm gonna be there in 5 minutes.
What are you talking about? We were gonna do our regular Saturday. Noah has music at 2 and Lil has karate.
Not that would expect him to remember.
Kate, California is going down. Pack up the kids now.
They just got back. God, you sound like a crazy person. The governor just said we're fine now.
The guy's an actor. He's reading a script. When they tell you not to panic, that's when you run!
Hey, you call me back when you calm down.
Mommy, why is Daddy so crazy?
Taking the most severe hit in Los Angeles.
Finish your pancakes, Al Capone.
To normal. It seems to me that the worst is over.
What is your emergency?
Oh
my God.
Get a direct line to LA. 911, what's your emergency? 911. I
need help. It's coming.
Got nowhere to run. Get him out of here before this thing blows. Got nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby. Got nowhere to hide.
Have you guys ever seen something like this before?
Got nowhere to run to, baby. Got nowhere to hide.
Light it up, TJ. It's magic time.
Sir, please don't do this.
At this depth, we're gonna strike so much oil. I'm not worried.
You're the only one in LA who isn't.
These are scientists who are sure that we are responsible for every single sinkhole that is happening across the city. Earthquakes?
Earthquakes! Go! Go, go, go!
Grab yourself a glass of champagne and enjoy the show.
Going camping?
Me with Cindy.
3 days in a national park. They'll be fine.
Is your sleeping bag up there?
What about it?
Oh, the material looks a little thin. Could get cold inside.
Guess that's settled. Looks like we're hooking up this weekend.
Don't stop. You're the new commanding head of the USGS. Embrace the power.
Good.
Uggs? Them boots Tom Brady wears? United States Geological Survey.
There's a network of deep faults. The San Andreas system. Ever heard of it?
Well, you're predicting a massive earthquake?
It's a virtual 10.0.
The big one.
My daughter is up there.
What's he want you to do?
Evacuate Los Angeles.
And how do you suggest we stop it? We're gonna blow up the original epicenter
You're suggesting that we purposely destroy Long Beach.
People, it's Long Beach. Who's gonna miss it?
You're telling me LA is about to become a goddamn volcano? Steph, what are you doing? Hold on! We still deserve to die.
Is the worst yet to come.
We all, I think, have a unique role and responsibility to prepare individually to be prepared for the next earthquake of magnitude even greater than 7.1.
I overheard a man say when you have an earthquake like the one in Ridgecrest, it takes the pressure off and lessens the likelihood of more like them. Is that true?
Unfortunately not. That is part of the human need to form a pattern. We hate randomness. And the fundamental is the distribution of earthquakes is random.
Seismologist Lucy Jones says the recent earthquakes are sending a message that an even bigger one is lurking.
This is not the big one. I say that the term the big one you can only use if it's such a big event you change the nature of society. You know, Katrina was the big one for New Orleans.
Maria in Puerto Rico.
Right. Those are events, disasters that really change society.
If an earthquake like Friday's were to hit the city of Los Angeles, Jones estimates it could cause upwards of $200 billion in damages. CBS News science and futurist contributor Michio Kaku says the likelihood of LA being hit by, quote, the big one in the next 30 years is inevitable.
A suspected gas explosion in Florida today reduced part of a shopping mall to rubble. The blast was massive. At least 21 people were hurt. It happened in Plantation, Florida, west of Fort Lauderdale. Peter King has more.
The blast originated inside a vacant pizza restaurant, destroying it and sending debris flying across this shopping center in Plantation, Florida. Falling debris crushed several cars in the parking lot.
I heard a loud boom and really thought it was fireworks.
The force of the blast shattered windows and damaged businesses in the same section of the plaza, including an LA fitness center. People inside the gym said the entire building shook. Its roof collapsed. Patrons were sent scrambling to get out.
My first initial instinct was, this is an earthquake, but I was like, I'm in Florida, so obviously it's not an earthquake. I was just terrified, honestly.
The explosion was powerful enough to be felt for miles around.
Now to the investigation into a massive house explosion in North Carolina. Rescue efforts going late into the night to try to find survivors. One man was rescued from the rubble after calling for help on his cell phone. ABC's Steve Osunsami is there in North Carolina with more on this. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. We're standing at the home directly across the street from where this explosion happened. And the family who lives here says it sounded like an earthquake. Then they looked outside their window and saw this. The house across the street was gone.
Ladder 32 is on scene. I'm looking at a rubble pile. Fire in the center.
This was a large home in an expensive country club neighborhood worth a reported $1.2 million. The 6,300 square foot home was blown to bits in the blast. The dark smoke filled the Charlotte sky. The explosion was enough to damage homes nearby.
I heard a boom. It shook, like I shook. And I started turning around and all the neighbors started running out of their houses.
A man who was also inside the home, who was trapped under his own house, was able to call for help from under the mountain of wood. Firefighters found him. He was airlifted to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries.
An earthquake erupting early this morning in Seattle with a magnitude of 4.6. ABC's Clayton Sandell has the latest now from LA. Clayton, good morning.
Good morning, Amy. An early morning jolt. The U.S. Geological Survey reporting a 4.6 magnitude earthquake struck just before 6 Eastern in the town of Three Lakes, Washington. That is just outside Seattle. So far, there is no tsunami warning. Good news. And it appears this quake is not connected to those quakes that struck Southern California last week. But the West Coast region has been on high alert since those July 4th weekend tremors. And experts have been examining the fault lines that run through Seattle to see how far they extend and determine just how strong an earthquake they could produce. Experts say they are less active than the ones in California, but still could trigger a major quake. So officials taking this very seriously.
New York City's lights are burning bright again, but last night a substation failure plunged parts of the city into darkness. Exactly why is still not known. Here's Chris Van Cleve.
A hot, humid summer Saturday night New York City got real dark for tens of thousands of people when a substation failed, leaving parts of Manhattan without power for about 5 hours. Packed subway trains were stuck with no power in the stations. Times Square went dark, even here at CBS News.
Lights.
Police officers and regular New Yorkers pitched in to keep traffic moving. And this stunning photo from across the river, half of the iconic New York skyline blacked out.
It's like a zombie apocalypse up there.
The city says it wasn't terrorism or a hack. By Sunday, it was the blame game.
You just can't have a power outage of this magnitude in this city. It is too dangerous. It shouldn't happen at all.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio played damage control after he returned from campaigning in Iowa.
You have to be in charge wherever you are. It's as simple as that.
So there's incredible redundancy in terms of our capacity.
Tim Cowley is the president of the power company, Con Edison.
You say that you've got redundancy on redundancy, and yet a huge swath of this city was plunged into darkness for 5 hours.
Yeah, that's fair.
Saturday's blackout happened on the 42nd anniversary of the 1977 power outage that sent the city into darkness and chaos. This time, order was maintained and there were no injuries.
The U.S. has just announced that it targeted and destroyed an Iranian drone in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, President Trump made the announcement moments ago in the East Room of the White House.
The Boxer took defensive action against an Iranian drone, which had closed into a very, very near distance, approximately 1,000 yards, ignoring multiple calls to stand down, and was threatening the safety of the ship and the ship's crew. The drone was immediately destroyed. This is the latest of many provocative and hostile actions by Iran against vessels operating in international waters.
Information today is shedding light on the Iranian seizure of a British oil tanker on Friday. Newly released video does show a dramatic scene as Iranian troops armed with machine guns rappel from a helicopter to board the British-flagged Stena Impero. The vessel was carrying no cargo but had a crew of 23 people on board. Radio transmissions between the British and Iranians paint a picture about how the event unfolded, as the Iranian military vessel demands that the British tanker alter its course. A British military ship tries to explain the request is a violation of international law.
Please confirm that you are not intending to violate international law by unlawfully attempting to board the MV Senator. If you obey, you will be safe.
The British tanker was ultimately taken into Iranian custody, where it remains.
This is completely unacceptable. Freedom of navigation must be maintained. We are having an emergency meeting of the government's COBRA committee in a few minutes' time. We will respond in a way that is considered but robust. And we are absolutely clear that if this situation is not resolved quickly, there will be serious consequences.
And tensions between the United States and Venezuela rising yet again after a close call between two military aircraft resulted in the countries accusing one another of violating international law. RT's Rachel Blevins has the latest.
The United States is now firing back and claiming it did nothing wrong following accusations that a U.S. military spy plane violated Venezuela's airspace. U.S. Southern Command released footage which they say shows a Venezuelan fighter jet aggressively shadowing a U.S. military plane in an unprofessional manner over approved international airspace. They did not say where the encounter took place or what the plane's mission was, but claim the U.S. routinely conducts monitoring missions in the region to ensure the safety of its partners. They also blamed Russia for the incident, alleging that it demonstrates Russia's irresponsible military support to Maduro's illegitimate regime and underscores Maduro's recklessness and irresponsible behavior. But Venezuela claimed its military was forced to intercept the U.S. spy plane because it violated Venezuelan airspace, did not report its presence to local authorities, and posed a risk to other planes in the area.
Well, parts of Venezuela remain without power a day after the country faced its fourth largest blackout of the year. The power outage left many people without access to clean water, phone service, and the internet. Venezuela's government has blamed the United States for previous outages, but this time around, the Maduro government is being blamed for neglecting to take care of the country's power grid. RT's Ashley Banks is joining us live in the studio with the latest details on this. Ashley?
That's right, Manila. Venezuela is still recovering after 14 of its 24 states lost power Monday. Power outages in the nation are a daily occurrence, but one of this magnitude is pretty rare. Officials are blaming the power outage on a hostile electromagnetic attack. At this time, the government has not specified what that means exactly. However, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has said armed forces are prepared to deal with a criminal attack. The so-called attack affected most of the country, including the capital, Caracas. The outage occurred during rush hour, causing chaos as traffic lights in the metro stopped working. In addition, most residents didn't have access to running water or phone service. And in some cases, residents had to resort to burning firewood to cook food. So far, the capital and a few other states have regained partial power. But being that the recovery period is in its early stages, the government decided to suspend work and educational activities today. And Venezuela's communications minister took to Twitter telling the people of Venezuela they can help the government restore power, stating, quote, "Attention, to assist in the reconnection process that is being carried out, we recommend staying at home." This is the largest blackout to take place in the country since March, when the country saw a number of power outages. These outages were the worst in decades, leaving many people without running water and causing major issues to the country's economy.
Has reportedly test-fired a medium-range ballistic missile. The Shahab-3 missile traveled nearly 700 miles, according to the New York Times. But a Pentagon official told several U.S. media outlets that the missile did not pose a threat to U.S. forces or to international oil shipping. Experts say the Shahab-3 missile is capable of delivering a nuclear warhead. This news comes as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told reporters he would agree to go inside Iran and try and diffuse tensions if he is asked. This seems to be a big provocation. This is a powerful medium-range ballistic missile. It's capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. It flew for hundreds of miles. Is this kind of a last-ditch attempt at this point to try and get Europe to revisit the deal, to offer economic relief? Or is that too late and this is now a military threat to Western forces?
I think Iran is basically trying to improve its leverage. It sees this leverage vis-a-vis the United States is weakening. We heard there was an exclusive report today by Reuters that 3 countries have stopped the tankers carrying Iran oil to carry their flag. Sierra Leone, Togo, and also I think Panama has also joined that list. This means that it's becoming even more difficult for Iran to sell its oil. The Iranians see now that the Europeans are going to form a coalition in order to protect shipping in the Persian Gulf. That's also bad news. So they don't want to be the same pattern as before. They don't want to be viewed as being weak.
North Korea fired 2 missiles overnight. That's according to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff. The projectiles were fired from the coastal city of Wonsan. South Korea has classified both missiles as short range, the first traveling around 270 miles and the second about 430 miles. CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio has more from Beijing.
Good morning. This is North Korea's 3rd short-range missile test this year, and just more than a week since Pyongyang threatened to restart long-range tests if the U.S. and South Korea didn't cancel upcoming military exercises. Today's missiles were launched from the eastern coastal city of Wonsan. One flew about 260 miles, the other flew 430 miles. Officials say they were fired from mobile launchers, which makes them more difficult to detect. Analysts tell CBS News they believe both were KN-23 missiles, the same the North tested back in May. These are nuclear capable, small, fast, and tough for missile defense systems to follow and destroy.